you look at where we will be in 2025, it's quite likely that our education budget is going to be about 12 lakh crore in 2025. When you do the math in terms of how large our economy is going to be and what the likely budget will be, etc. It's going to be a massive spend on by the state. And I'm quite convinced that private spend is likely to be at least that at that point in time. Today, the ratio is more like 60-40 in terms of government spend versus private spend on education. We'll probably have 300 million children in the school system by then, or close to that, not quite there, versus 240 odd million today. First and foremost is we need a vision for assessment in our country. I think if we want to make learning, put it front and center, we cannot do it without having a vision for where we want student assessment to be, and eventually assessment of schools, systems, etc. I personally think what we need as a country is we need something like a NAS, which is at the national level, but of course a much better version of NAS. So something that's national, a good instrument, something that states will actually think is, when a NAS ranking gets put out, the way a NAEP ranking, if you know the US standardized assessment, if it gets put out, states should aspire to say, I'm 23rd this year, I want to be 21st or 20th next year. Firstly, it's because I think that student assessment is the bedrock of school assessment, or school rating. And you can't get there unless you have census. If you're doing a survey, it's not good enough. Secondly, we do want eventually to get feedback to the parents. And you're not going to be able to get any feedback to parents on a survey. You can give them general statistics, but you can't tell them where their child is. And so if the purpose of assessment is for policy and for public awareness, and eventually as a feedback loop into the teaching learning cycle, I think the hardest of these is the last one. The only way you can get there is through a census assessment. But I don't think that the standardized assessments will easily get us to the last piece, which is to actually improve teaching learning practice. And so we've got to look at what some others have done around that. But I think to get started, if we want better sort of strategic management of our education system, we clearly need census-based assessment at the state level and survey-based assessment at the national level. I think a second piece that's really important is we need to fix teacher education. I know Maya has talked a lot about this. Having this ridiculous system of 14,000 institutes is it's stupid. It's insane. You don't need that. And we've let the worst of the free market sort of happen here, which is just let 1,000 flowers flourish, where people can't make an informed choice, and where then shutting down is really, really difficult. I believe we definitely need some kind of rating system of these institutes as well. We need a lot more sort of information in the public domain. I really think that these institutes are the worst of the private sector. I mean, it's filled with fly-by-night operators, politicians at work, etc. School leadership is clearly a very important piece of the stool as well. And if you look at all research around improvement at the school level, it's teachers and school leaders that account for almost 2/3 of student achievement. But again, I think as a country, we're taking a really half-ass approach to the way we are doing this. I don't think we've thought through how we need to train these people, what kind of induction program we require, what kind of ongoing program. And all the training is good, but training is not going to be great if our selection process continues, in the same manner going forward. Third one, in my mind, would be a significant investment in early childhood education. Now, I think, again, I'm not a fan of fixing existing things because I think it's very hard to do so. So fixing the Anganwadi system and ICDS, I don't know, and I think it's a lost cause. So I would almost say there's an opportunity to take the current school system and really build junior KG and senior KG within the school system. MHRD controls it. So it's not a question of move ICDS and have it jointly managed. In all our private schools, or many private schools, anyway, junior KG and senior KG rests in school. The Right to Education Act eventually needs to extend downward to age 4, shouldn't start at age 6. And education needs to, or schooling needs to be compulsory in my mind, starting age 4. And it should be done in schools. We need a separate cadre of teachers. We need to really think through, because you're starting afresh. I would again set up a separate body to do this. I wouldn't try to do it through any current body, and have it focus on setting standards, developing curriculum, developing resources, figuring out what kind of teacher certification you need, if at all, for this space, and really think very strategically about early childhood. Another one that I would point towards is this whole idea of looking at our secondary schools, and seriously looking at vocational training in secondary schools and building life skills, counseling, mentorship for these kids. I actually think that corporate CSR can play a big role in many places here. Whether it's helping build the curriculum for these schools, but partnerships to do internships. There's a golden opportunity, I think, to bake in vocational into our secondary system. And I would be a strong advocate of streaming starting class 8, much like what the Finns do. The Chinese, by the way, do this as well. The Mexicans do this. It's only the Anglo-Saxon model. It's only the Brits and Americans who have this view that, every child, we can't stream and all this rubbish. But I strongly believe in a country like India, we shouldn't persist with the model we've had so far. Another area is the whole area of PPP. So when you look at public-private partnership, we've got the old aided school model. 20+ million children go to aided schools in India. Some states like Kerala, it's a very, very high percentage, as you know. I think if we're thinking about this, where we are today in terms of private share, you project 12 years out. I don't even want to project, but a very large percentage of our kids are going to be going to private school. But unfortunately, there will still be a large number of kids who will be stuck in the public system, and even if they have choice, it's a choice between a private school and a government school where the delta, at least what guys like Karthik will tell you, is not that great. Of course, there's some private affordable schools that do a very good job, but the delta isn't as large as what we'd like it to be, right? And so I think there's a great opportunity to again take public money, and what CCS has been saying for a long, long time, which is fund students and not schools. I personally don't think the voucher model will sell so easily, but I think it's a more saleable proposition is the PPP model, because the state feels it has a little bit more control. Again, we put out this model schools, PPP, very little traction. I really think we need to go back and re-examine. I know Amitabh has been spending a lot of time on this, is how we've designed it, what framework we've created, what the financial implications are. And if you think about one initiative like that, actually could impact 5 million children if it were to roll out. We're talking about 2,500 schools with 2,000 plus children each. And then there's the opportunity to do the same at the state level, which the government's already talking about. And then think about what you could do at a city level. You could easily design these things in a way where millions of children could actually, go to schools where there's this new PPP arrangement, where the aided arrangement is a bad one. And then I think we, over time, need to look at just changing the framework of this aided school model. It's going to be a hard thing to do, but really give them more autonomy, because we're not giving them autonomy today, but really hold them accountable. And I think if you have the assessment framework, you actually can do that. The last thing that I'll talk to is technology. I think if we're thinking about the future, we can't ignore technology. I don't think we'll ever, if you imagine our school system, even in 2025, and you imagine that we aspire for a PTR of 25:1 by then, we'll still need 12 million teachers, right? I don't think we're going to find, we can try our best to make teaching aspirational, all of that great stuff, fix our teacher education institutes. We're not going to get there. It will be lucky if there are 1 or 2 or 3 million great teachers, let alone 12 million great teachers. And so I think we do have to look at technology and how we can use it. I'm a big fan of personalized learning, because I think the whole power of technology, we can't get away from the fact that you do need teachers. But I think you can imagine a world where you can completely bust up school design and look at even school design very, very differently. So I was talking with a friend of mine who's in the US who runs a very innovative network of schools. And he was just in Hyderabad. I think you met him, Jay. And we were just chatting about, can you completely redesign an affordable school model? And there is possibly a way to do it, where you can run a school where you only need 4 or 5 great teachers, a bunch of okay so-so teachers, but you create different job profiles for them, and use technology in a very intelligent way to take care of some of the very basic skills, but also use very large class sizes for certain kinds of activities. So I don't think we've put enough thought into it. I also don't have any answers today, but I do think we need to really rethink school design, as it were. And just doing it the way we've done it, in the Indian context at least, I don't believe we're going to get there. But relying too much on just letting technology make it happen on its own, I don't think is the solution either. I'll just close by saying that in order to make this happen, we need serious political will. 15 to 20% of our state budget is actually going towards education. It's the single largest spend for most states. So it should be something that the Chief Minister actually gives a lot of time to, but it almost needs to be routinized in terms of baked into the calendar. That I've got an expert group working with me, I've set up a project management unit, I'm going to do these reviews at my level, and I'm going to actually go visit schools X number of days, almost build it into the calendar to make it happen. And I think that's where we need to educate our leaders, that if they want to change the school system, it's going to require that kind of commitment from the top. So I think if we have this aspiration of wanting to be globally competitive, we need to really get political leadership significantly invested in making this happen. We need to work towards helping write that 2025 vision for them, getting them to buy into it, and then helping them execute against that vision. Thank you.